Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of The Greatest Record Ever Made. I'm Carl Caffarelli, the co-host of This is Rock and Roll Radio with Dana and Carl, heard every Sunday night from 9 to midnight Eastern Time, right here in Syracuse on Spark, WSPJ 103.3 and 93.7 FM, and on the web at sparksyracuse.org. I'm also a writer, and I've been working on a book called The Greatest Record Ever Made, Volume 1, dedicated to the notion that an infinite number of songs can each be the greatest record ever made, as long as they take turns. And that's what records do, they take turns. Now, this week's radio show, this Sunday night's This is Rock and Roll Radio with Dana and Carl on May 30th, Memorial Day weekend 2021. We're going to feature the music of Micky Dolenz, both as a solo performer and with the Monkees, Dolenz, Jones, Boyce and Hart, various other incarnations. I think we have 16 Micky Dolenz performances, plus a cover of a Monkees song and a song about Micky Dolenz. So I think it's going to be a pretty good tribute to the music of Micky Dolenz and his contributions to pop music over the decades. And the decision to have Micky as the featured performer this week is prompted by the release of this new album, Micky Dolenz, Dolenz Sings Nesmith. This is a fantastic new release. 14 Michael Nesmith songs as interpreted by his prime mate, Micky Dolenz, produced by Christian Nesmith, backing vocals by Christian Nesmith and Circe Link and Micky himself. This is just wonderful. These are definitely not rote covers. There was a great deal of ingenuity and artistry and imagination that went into this, and it is certainly going to be one of my favorite albums this year, maybe my favorite album. It's got a shot at it. That prompts us to do the Micky Dolenz tribute on the radio show this week. And it also directs me to put this week's Grem video to one of the two Monkees songs intended currently for the book, if the book ever becomes a book. If, as Micky likes to say, Pinocchio becomes a real boy. We've already done a video for The Girl I Knew Somewhere, and so today we're going to talk about Porpoise Song. It is possible that I may decide to consolidate and do just one Monkees chapter in the book. Not sure. Right now I'm doing both. If I do cut one, it's going to be The Girl I Knew Somewhere, because Porpoise Song is just undeniable. I love the movie Head. I love the music from Head. It was part of my transition into super Monkees fandom in the 70s as a teenager in high school. There's a book about the movie here. I confess I haven't gotten around to it. I've got this book as soon as it was released, and it's in my big stack of stuff waiting for me to get to, but it looks fascinating. The Monkees' Head in the 60s by Peter Mills. I really can't wait to dive into this. I've also got Andrew Sandoval's updated Monkees Day by Day book on order for when that comes out later this year. So I'm a fan. Let's hear what I have to say about Porpoise Song for the book. The Monkees' Porpoise Song theme from Head, written by Jerry Goffin and Carole King, produced by Jerry Goffin, single, Coal Gems Records, 1968. It was over. It was the end. The money men knew it. The players did not. The players had no idea how distant the year 1968 was from 1967. The calendar insisted it had been just 1 year. Instead, it may as well have been a lifetime. The Monkees were on top of the pop world in 67. The made-for-TV quartet, Micky Dolenz, Davy Jones, Peter Tork, and Michael Nesmith, were at the peak of their popularity, with a hit TV show promoting big hit records, successful concert dates to prove the manufactured band could perform as a real band, opportunities to hobnob with the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Kinks, and all of rock and roll's biggest names, and a chance to make their own music after freeing themselves from the yoke of golden-eared but short-sighted musical supervisor Don Kirshner. By some accounts, the Monkees in 1967 outsold the Beatles and the Rolling Stones combined. Nesmith later insisted he'd manufactured that claim himself and that people took his fib as truth. Whether a lie or gospel, it was plausible. 1967 was the summer of love. It was the summer of Sgt. Pepper. If the Monkees weren't really bigger than the Beatles, they were nonetheless awfully big indeed. And it all went away in 1968. Those of us who dream of fame, who worship glittery idols from afar, can't even imagine how fame could be so fickle, so fleeting. The swift fall from grace is the oldest story in the world and in the heavens, from Lucifer to Adam and Eve. In 68, the Monkees TV series was canceled after 2 seasons. The Monkees believed they could continue successfully without that exposure. D.W. Washburn, the first Monkees single released after the TV series' end, barely made it into the top 20, whereas the 6 previous Monkees A-sides had hit number 1, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 1, and number 6. No subsequent Monkees single would even crack the top 40 during the remainder of the group's original run. The Monkees weren't worried yet. So what if one single underperformed? They just needed to reestablish themselves away from the TV image. Credibility would come, and success would return. The Monkees would make a movie. Not an extended, goofy, and giddy expansion of their now-defunct cathode ray capers, but something hip, something far out, something for a turned-on, tuned-in now audience. The film would be called Head. It would be a triumphant expose of the artificial machinations that fabricated the Monkees phenomenon, and it would surely build a bridge for those hip heads in the Monkees to cross over to new success. Head was ultimately a dark, bitter, and brilliant film, mesmerizing in its wanton deconstruction of the Monkees, chortling about their manufactured image with no philosophies. It was a box office failure. The kids who liked the Monkees were confused and alienated by the movie, and the hippie clientele the film hoped to reach wouldn't have been caught gratefully dead at a Monkees flick. Head's opening sequence depicted Micky Dolenz running away, jumping off one of the largest suspended arch bridges in the world and plunging into the presumed tomb of the deep blue sea, that other Davy Jones locker. Escorted by psychedelic mermaids into the next phase. Micky's prime mates ultimately follow him off the bridge. It was supposed to be the TV Monkees committing suicide. The real Monkees' career was euthanized right along with it. For all of that, Head's woeful ticket sales and lack of contemporary appreciation don't stop it from being one of my favorite movies. Its existence and its ambition add great depth to the Monkee story, and the soundtrack music is simply amazing. I discovered all of this well after the fact. I was 8 years old in 1968, and I doubt I even knew that this group I liked on TV had also made a movie. I saw Head on a late-night CBS TV broadcast in the 70s, but it didn't really register with me then. I embraced it in the mid-80s. I got to the soundtrack LP in 1977. That blew me away immediately. Daddy's Song, written by Harry Nilsson. As We Go Along. Nesmith's Circle Sky. Torque's Can You Dig It? And long title, Do I Have to Do This All Over Again? The snarky cool Diddy Diego war chant, with the prefabs gleefully declaring, the money's in, we're made of tin, we're here to give you more. Snippets of dialogue. Strings. Dandruff? Supernatural baloney. I'd like a glass of cold gravy with a hair in it, please. Divorced from its visual image, the record made little sense. As I would later discover, the visual and audio also made little sense when combined together. But it was glorious. Glorious. For those who look for meaning and form as they do fact, the Monkees might tell you one thing, but they'll only take it back. Both the album and the film begin with Porpoise Song, theme from Head, a Carole King Jerry Goffin composition that feels like a communique from Other. Actually, the album and the film both begin with an attempt by a long-winded representative of the man to try to dedicate the opening of the above-mentioned large suspended bridge, pushed aside by seemingly suicidal Monkees. Then the song begins to play, and the Head trip truly begins. Is it possible for a song to brood and soar at the same time? You wouldn't think so. But Porpoise Song somehow manages to simultaneously reflect on its own mysteries while making its leap of faith, to reach toward the heavens while plummeting into the foamy abyss below. My, the clock in the sky is pounding away, and there's so much to say. A face, a voice, an overdub has no choice, an image cannot rejoice. Wanting to be, to hear and to see, crying to the sky. But the porpoise is laughing. Goodbye, 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 goodbye. And the cuddly monkey's fate is sealed in a watery grave. Good thing those psychedelic mermaids are there. Everyone who knows me knows that I love the Monkees. I love the TV series. I love the prefab Kirshner-era records. The Hey Hey were a real band triumph of the Headquarters LP. The Monkees with sidemen compromise of Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, and Jones Limited, my favorite Monkees album. The shtick, the ambition, the songs, the image, the truth behind the image. I'm a believer already. But there's something emphatically special about the movie Head and its soundtrack. It's part of the grit that gives the cotton candy substance. Porpoise Song towers majestically above it all. If it had been the only track ever released under the Monkees brand name, we would still revere the sheer wonder of the Monkees on that basis alone. The Moneymen knew it was over. Monkees producers Bob Rafelson and Bert Schneider were getting out while the getting was good, leaving Monkey Shines permanently behind them. Rafelson in particular en route to a successful and celebrated career as a film auteur. Head was their killing stroke to the Monkees as they moved on. Subsequent films Easy Rider and Five Easy Pieces were largely financed with Monkee money. The latter film starred a then unknown actor named Jack Nicholson, who had co-written Head with Rafelson, based in part on rambling, pot-fueled conversations with the Monkees. The Monkees did not receive a writing credit. The Monkees did not know that it was over. Clicks, clacks, riding the backs of giraffes for laughs is all right for a while. It took decades for the members of the Monkees to come to terms with whatever the hell it was they went through in that short, explosive combustion of fame and sudden seeming irrelevance. They came back, of course. Reruns of the TV series and perpetual airplay on oldies radio assured that the Monkees could never be fully forgotten. When you see the end in sight, the beginning may arrive. They reunited in varying combinations with varying levels of success. Even though Davy Jones passed away in 2012 and Peter Tork left us in 2019, the Monkees managed to become timeless, perennial. The ego sings of castles and kings and things that go with a life of style. When my first spin of the Head album immersed me inside this all-encompassing magic of Porpoise Song, my belief in the Monkees was validated. Each spin renews that, wanting to feel, to know it is real. The Moneymen were wrong. It wasn't the end. It sure looked like the end, with their former puppets descending fatalistically into the water's cold embrace. But the Porpoise was waiting. Goodbye? Not yet. Thank you for joining me today for the greatest record ever made. You can see below options to support, subscribe, and tip. I will also post a link to the original published version of this chapter as it appeared on my blog, boppin' like the hip folks do. Hope you'll join us Sunday night from 9 to midnight Eastern Time for our Micky Dolenz feature on This Is Rock and Roll Radio with Dana and Carl at sparksyracuse.org. And I thank you once again for joining us here for the greatest record ever made.